They're up, they're down, they're over, and now they really are out. And Philadelphia Eagles fans continue the chant of why. Eagles, why? Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Why Eagles Why. Dave Bontempo, Bill Gelman, Pete Amato, and Katie Kohler with you. We do the show in 4 quarters, so please hit like and subscribe to be notified about future videos. As we break the huddle, the first quarter, we're going to break down our thoughts on the Eagles' departure as they were beaten by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My first thought was they didn't belong. They're the same level. There was a Tom Brady level, and then there was them, and they could not get over the top. Bill, I'll go to you first on this as you watched that game and you evaluated the Eagles and the Bucs. Your thoughts?
Clearly, the Eagles were outplayed, outcoached, and they just don't have the talent to match up yet with the elite teams in this league. And the thing I feared that we talked about last week, you can't get behind against these elite teams in the NFL and expect to fight back. Eagles were down 31-0 this time around, and they had really had no shot, and they had some real blunders throughout the game that they had no sense winning this week.
Now, is there a Gelman's Gold on this segment, or we're going to be pushing that back?
Well, there's going to be a bonus one later on, but for the Eagles game, it's clear it's Jalen Hurts completed 53% of his passes. I mean, and they were forced to pass this week because they got so far behind so early. They had to give up on the run game, and Jalen Hurts left us. I don't know about everyone else here, but in my mind, Jalen Hurts once again showed us that he may not be the quarterback of the future for this franchise because he can't win in the big games.
All right, Pete, that goes right over to you, something you have been saying throughout the year. We've seen flashes of a different look by Jalen Hurts, but when it mattered, he was not able to deliver against the Bucs.
No, if you look at kind of the whole season, the Eagles were a bit of fool's gold. I mean, we didn't beat one team with a winning record. We didn't beat one team in the regular season that actually made the playoffs. And when it comes to Jalen Hurts, I have been saying it all season. I've been saying I wanted to be wrong, but I don't know if a lot of questions were answered, to be honest, coming into the season. In my opinion, they were. There's certain things that Jalen Hurts, I feel he's just not good at, and it's stuff that I don't see them getting better at in the near future, and that's being able to read the field, kind of being a student of the game. I like Jalen Hurts. I think he's a great leader, but sometimes you need a little bit more than that. And I think if you watch the game, I watched the game, kind of watched it over and some film, and although I don't think we would have beat Tampa Bay anyway, there was a lot of plays left on the field that game, and especially with Devontae Smith. There were several plays. He was wide open.
Yep.
And it's not Sirianni. You can't blame it on Sirianni. Even if Devontae Smith's not the number one read in those, Jalen Hurts has to go through his reads. There comes to a point where you have to stop kind of blaming the coach because, he called the play. He was open, and you got to start putting on the players to actually do their job. I just don't see Jalen Hurts as our future. I just felt like that since I've seen him play last year.
All right. A couple of themes that emerged to me while I was watching. Tom Brady, a master at the audible, at the line of scrimmage, changing plays. And then the Tampa Bay defense, as we outlined here last week, did overload the one side, tried to take away that rushing by Miles Sanders. They did that, and that led into the situation you referred to with Jalen Hurts being unable to come up big. Now, Katie, as you watched the game, what points and thoughts came flooding through to you.
It was pretty clear really early on that Tom Brady was going to be Tom Brady. And, it was pretty much a clear case early on that it was going to be a blowout. But like Bill said, the Eagles made some mistakes, and it didn't have to be a blowout. It didn't have to be 31-0 going into the fourth. And like Pete said, Jalen Hurts missed Devontae Smith, and it didn't have to be 31-0. First of all, there was no way the Eagles were going to beat Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Let's get that right there. But for the Eagles to cover that number, that 8-9 points, there was a chance for that. But I think the Eagles just, first of all, the penalties, the dumb plays, that Derek Barnett dumb personal foul. I can't wait to see him gone. Missing Devontae Smith wide open, and false starts, holdings, things that have been hurting the Eagles all year. You can't make those mistakes in a playoff game. And it killed the Eagles, and and eventually ended their season, but it didn't have to be a blowout. And that's what really bothered me, is that those mistakes were something that I would hope come playoff time that would have been cleaned up. And, Jalen Hurts really opened up the door to a whole off season of controversy and talk radio of, is he QB1? And the fact that my afternoon, I cheered harder for Dallas to lose than I did during the Eagles game really tells you something.
All right, Katie. So we'll have Note to Howie from Katie in our next segment as we take a look ahead to where the Eagles go. Not even mentioning Jalen Hands Rager. So that's a whole nother topic of conversation for Eagles fans. And that's our first quarter. And we'll evaluate more in the second quarter. Second quarter of Why Eagles Why. What was the season like? What should the Eagles do in the offseason? I think they overachieved in one area with their record in making the playoffs, but then showed they could not be a top shelf team. I would say address defense in the draft. How about you, Katie K? Note to Howie. How do you evaluate the season, and what moves would you like to see the Eagles make?
Dave, I absolutely agree with you. Like I've been saying, going into the season, the Eagles win total was 6.5. They went over that. I look at their season as they overachieved. I know some people that were picking them to win 3 or 4 games. I really think that in the regular season, they adjusted, and for me, they exceeded my expectations. Obviously, I don't trust Howie Roseman because of a lot of reasons, but mostly because of his really crappy drafts. Going into this draft, I know people are really excited because he has 3 first-round picks. I don't think there's any way the Eagles make 3 picks in the first round. That is not a hot take. It's just facts. There's no way he's making those 3 first-round picks. He's going to trade. He's going to maneuver. I think the Eagles need to address defense. I think they need Slay had a really good year, but I think he was really on his own in the secondary. I think they need help in the secondary. I think our offensive line is old. I think we need help on the offensive line. Devontae Smith, I've said it's like having a Maserati and leaving him in the garage. I think we need another wide receiver to complement him. And really, the first thing I would have done is leave Jalen Reagor in Tampa. I mean, were we legally required to give him a ride home? I don't know. I don't know if that's written in the players' agreement, if we had to take him home, if he had to get on the plane. But I really think that it's a major confidence issue with him. I don't think he is an NFL player. I think it's time to cut your losses with him. Also, I think Derek Barnett, I believe he's an unrestricted free agent. Fletcher Cox, I think, has seen his better days. I think we also need another tight end to go with Goddard. I really wouldn't be surprised if Zach Ertz came back, to be honest with you. So those are just some things I'm thinking about now. We have a whole off season to talk about it, so I'm really excited to do that too.
Yeah, we will be doing that. And gee, Katie, some people just never can get over Rager ahead of Jefferson in the draft, a couple of years back. Hey, Pete, how does this all strike you? Your impression of the Eagles all season, and where do they go now?
I feel they overachieved too. Like Katie said, I was surprised that they made the playoffs. Initially, I was surprised, and whether you have expectations or you're a realist or whatever, you're a fan, so you're going to get your hopes up. But I mean, they're playing Tom Brady. I mean, I last episode I even said the Eagles have a chance to win this game if they do A, B, and C. They were over 3 in what I said. So you're a fan. You're going to get excited. I'm grateful for the excitement that we've had this last few weeks. That being said, if you do take a step back and look at the season as a whole, there's so many unknowns. We're not going to get this schedule every season. This is probably one of the easiest schedules I've ever seen an Eagles team have. Even when we were talking about the team, I think they only had like 3 wins at the time, and we were actually saying, we're looking at the second half of the schedule and saying, oh, they could still make the playoffs. That was us talking, and people thought we were crazy, but I'm like, look at this schedule. It's like there's not one winning team in the last, besides the Cowboys and I don't even remember now, but there's not. So I wasn't. I mean, I have mixed feelings. I feel like there wasn't a lot accomplished this season. I mean, there was a few things. I mean, we saw Devontae Smith is the real deal. I love Devontae Smith. Mulata, huge step for him this year. I mean, he's had huge steps since it kind of clicked for him about a year back. And I mean, he could have easily been a Pro Bowler. Our offensive line looks, it was getting old. We were afraid about some of the, with Dickerson and stuff like that, but now it looks like it's actually getting a little bit younger, not including, obviously talking about Kelsey. I hope he doesn't retire, but if he does, I feel like we have an offensive line is kind of the building block of our team right now. I think we can build off that. So, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, whether it was, whether you can say I think we overachieved, underachieved. What was a good season? It was an exciting season. I'm grateful for that. We were in it all the way till the end, but there's so many question marks, and I think they have a lot to do in the offseason.
Hey, Bill, you and I talked a few weeks back, and we accurately forecast on the nose that the Eagles would win 4 of their last 6 games exactly, which they did. So now my question is, does this look like a team that built enough to go forward, or are they in that in-between spot where you even have to strip down and even maybe get worse before you get better?
I'm sort of in the middle there. I personally agree with Katie and Pete. I think the team in a way overachieved because when they were 2-5, we weren't talking playoffs. We were thinking, okay, how's Howie going to fix this or mess this up further? But the problem to that same scenario is because they beat soft teams in the league or the lower tier teams who didn't make the playoffs, we really don't know what this team has, because anytime they faced one of the playoff teams, it was a totally different story. The Eagles were outplayed, outcoached. You have Sirianni, who's went through his first year and he did a decent job for a first-year coach who didn't have any head coaching experience in the NFL before. But there's a lot of holes talent-wise on this team. I was actually going to go buy a bus ticket before we started filming so we could send Jalen Reagor out of town. But I figured Howie can pay for that since he's the one who drafted him. I don't know why JJ or Theo Whiteside is on this roster still. What has he done since he got drafted out of Stanford? Greg Ward? I think Greg Ward has done more than both of them put together. And he's like number 4 or 5 on the depth chart. So what I'm getting at, Devontae Smith, is a wide receiver to build around. And like Katie said, we need someone to complement him. Quez Watkins, I think, has some great potential, but I think he's like a number 3 or number 4 on this team. So you have, I don't know if I'd use one of those 3 first-round picks to address wide receiver. I think you got to address linebacker, because that's been week after week. That's a common theme on our podcast here. They definitely need help on defense, because even though Brady got sacked 3 times on Sunday, they were all meaningless. The game was over. And they also, the Buccaneers were without their top offensive lineman. So defense should be the focus. I mean, look what he did for the Cowboys. The Cowboys addressed defense and they ran away with the NFC East. But then again, that really wasn't a challenge this season, was it?
Well, now we go into something else with the word Cowboys that can bring some happiness to Eagles fans. And we'll look at that in the third quarter. Well, as we start the third quarter of Why Eagles Why, Eagles fans were disappointed about losing, but there were 4 words that were music to their ears. How?
BOUT.
Them.
Cowboys. Woo!
Yes, indeed. How about them Cowboys? Or how about them Cowboys? Jimmy Johnson made it famous when the Cowboys had beaten the San Francisco 49ers, advancing to a Super Bowl. And now it's something all Eagles fans love to rub in when the Cowboys get eliminated. And they have a record that is unrivaled of bowing in the early rounds of the playoffs. So they lost to the 49ers, ironically, when we go back to that statement. And they did not look like a team that even should have won that game. So as we go around here, Bill, I'll start with you. What do you think about them Cowboys?
Well, I was just thoroughly enjoying that game. It was a little nerve-wracking towards the end because Dallas had a bonehead chance they had a chance to actually come out and win the game, and they did a bonehead play that we can get into before we finish the segment, but they earned a special distinction and bonus Gelman's gold this week. They had 14 penalties in the game. That's an NFL playoff record, ladies and gentlemen.
And they are the only team to make bonus Gelman gold all year. So they stand on a pedestal with that. And those 14 penalties were worth 89 yards, and they disrupted so many drives. And it was pre-snap stuff. They were not paying attention. There was a timing issue with the team, and that's what stuck out there. How about you, KDK? How about them Cowboys?
So I'm sure a lot of Eagles fans are more excited during that game than they were the actual Eagles game. I know I was. But so Dak is the 3rd highest paid quarterback in 2021. And when you look at what he did during Wild Card Weekend, passed for 1 touchdown. The 2 guys that got paid more than him, Mahomes passed for 5 touchdowns. Josh Allen passed for 5 touchdowns. So if you think you have a quarterback issue in Philadelphia, imagine in Dallas when you're like, this guy is the 3rd highest paid quarterback. I think he's getting $40 million. And you look at the guys that he's on the same level with and what they did during Wild Card Weekend. It's, their expectations were a lot bigger in Dallas than they were in Philadelphia. And they came up short. But I also think that as happy as we were in Philadelphia, we need to also think that the last 9 times we played Dallas, they beat us 7 times. And I think I'm tired of losing to Dallas. And it's something that I really think that the Eagles and Howie Roseman, they got to put an end to this. I don't want to be losing to Dallas. The last time the Eagles beat Dallas, Ben DiNucci was the quarterback.
The incomparable
Ben
DiNucci. Yes, he was their 3rd stringer.
I think why we took a lot of joy in that, I understand, but we need to get our house in order so we could start beating Dallas again.
All right, Pete, as we go to you, and how about them Cowboys? One thing I picked up in that game was how airtight the coverage was by the 49ers defense on the Cowboys receivers in man-to-man coverage. And Dak Prescott was trying to fit that ball through a needle. But that's just one thought that emerged to me watching that. What was the big theme that came to you when you were thinking, how about them Cowboys?
One thing that really came to me, it wasn't about Dak underachieving. I think Dak is a good quarterback. It looked like he was doing everything he could to try to win that game. What came to me is the play calling. The offensive play calling wasn't good. They just weren't. You have the talent to get open. Like even their new tight end Schultz. I mean, he's a good player. The wide receivers are very talented, and if you can't call up plays to get one of those guys open, then you're doing something wrong. So I was happy to see that this new coaching staff was supposed to come in and be this savior, because he won a Super Bowl years ago with one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. But I just think that's good for the Eagles. I mean, the coaching is something that's not going anywhere for the Cowboys, and I think they're the ones that kind of blew the game. Some of the play calls were head scratching. It looked like they just didn't look like the same Dallas team that was all season. And another thing that was really surprising was the 49ers all season. They were in such disarray at the beginning of the season. It looked like they were kind of like on the downtrend. And it was like, okay, it's going to be a little bit of a rebuilding year for the 49ers. They have some good players, but they're not going to. But then they just kind of like hung in there, and they just put a beating on the Cowboys, and they really opened some eyes in this playoff.
They sure did, because they beat the Rams and the Cowboys back-to-back on the road, and they were trailing the Rams 17-0. So they became the first team to beat Sean McVay when he had a lead at halftime. But now here's one little thing to go around the horn here. When you look at that game and then project ahead, is Zeke Elliott long in the tooth for Dallas? And who do you choose if you can have one running back, Zeke Elliott or Miles Sanders? Who wants to jump on that one?
I'll start. I actually wanted to touch on one more thing before I answer that question,
Yes.
Dave.
All right.
This is to make Eagles fans feel a little better. The last time the Dallas Cowboys advanced past the divisional round of the playoffs was 1995. Eagles have played in 2 Super Bowls since then, won one. So I love the current definition of America's team, because Dallas is definitely not America's team. I think they just like the Dallas merchandise or something. But to answer your question, I think Ezekiel Elliott is getting past his prime. He just really, he put up some decent numbers this year, but I think it's Dallas is going to start looking at him. Miles Sanders, if he can stay healthy, he would be my choice. But I think the Eagles also need a more than one running back if to keep their rushing attack as strong as it was this season.
Katie, is Zeke Elliott long in the tooth?
Yeah. I think running backs they're interchangeable now. And to me, the Eagles just draft one in the later rounds.
No, they got the good offensive line to support that, as we saw a lot of good Eagles running backs have some good games. Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, to your point. And Pete, to wrap up this idea, Zeke Elliott, Miles Sanders, and any thoughts along those lines for you?
I can't stand Zeke Elliott. I just think he's just one of those like selfish players. I mean, he's always talking about shut up. Like I just think like if it's not going his way, you ever really watch the game. If it's not going his way, he just looks miserable. He's never been. I mean, coming out of college, he was always touted as this great blocking running back, but you don't really see it unless he has all these yards and he's like in a good mood or whatever. But I like Miles Sanders, and he was really injury prone this year. But I think little blame is on the Eagles coaching staff. When you're using a guy like they were using, he just doesn't have a chance to get warmed up this season. I mean, There was one game where they literally ran the ball 3 times and he was not injured. So it's like you're using him, you're not using him. I feel like they underused the running game. I think every fan, the first half of the season, and that includes Miles Sanders. And like Katie said, running backs are interchangeable these days. I mean, you have the top like 3 or 4 running backs in the league that are going to be good on any offensive line. But after that, it really comes down to the offensive line. And I think we got that pretty much. We're doing a good job with the offensive line. Stoutland has done an amazing job with that crew. And if you can give a coach of the year to a coordinator, I think you give it to Stoutland, to be honest.
All right. We've got the fourth quarter to look at the upcoming slate of excellent playoff games. Fourth quarter, why Eagles, why? Great playoff lineup, as you can see. And my favorite, the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe the football version of Ollie Frazier during our times to me, because these are 2 phenomenal offensive teams. Buffalo setting a record last week, never done before. 7 possessions, 7 touchdowns against the New England Patriots, who had been an elite defensive team. And the Kansas City Chiefs putting up 42 points against the Pittsburgh Steelers after being shut out in the first quarter. These teams met last year in the championship game of the AFC. It was 38-24 Kansas City. It's a phenomenal rematch. A lot of people are going to jump on Buffalo on the money line because it's a very tight game. But this is just footballs in the air. Both teams even better offensively than last year. So I can't wait for that game. Katie, how about you?
I think you're going to see the public right now. They love the Bengals. They love the Bengals and Burrow. And, some stats for you. The Bengals have won 4 of their last 5 as underdogs against AFC opponents. And they've also covered the spread in each of their last 5 games. I think when you see Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, it's really something to behold, those 2. And they came out. Obviously, people were talking about how it's the first time you're able to text that the Bengals won a playoff game. It's been that long. And I think a lot of people, it's a feel-good story. The Bengals are the feel-good story of the playoffs. Titans got the first-round bye. I think Derrick Henry's going to play. And usually, I think some people, you tend to forget about how good the Titans are. But I think that you're going to see really the public side with the Bengals. Joe Burrow's just likable. He is. And I think a lot of, aside from your teams that you just said, the Bills and the Chiefs, who wouldn't want Joe Burrow as their quarterback? Maybe the Chargers too. So I think that's going to be a really good game. And like I've been saying, this weekend is just a stay in and watch football, and don't even ask me to do anything because I just want to watch all these games.
Well, you want me to do something else? Not going to happen. It's funny. The Bengals in 2 years ago, remember, they made news in a different way. They had a guy living on the roof of his house, and he wouldn't come down. He wouldn't get out of there until they won a game. And it took them until the very end of the season. And so they kept putting the attention on him, living outside when it got cold until the Bengals won a game. And now, look, they are the darlings as they go in against the Titans. Pete, how about you? What game do you love this weekend?
I'm excited for the Rams Buccaneers game. I mean, both teams are playing probably at their peak performance right now. They're only getting healthier. You have 2 future Hall of Fame quarterbacks, in my opinion. Some people think Stafford throws too many interceptions, but I like Stafford. Obviously, Brady's the greatest of all time. And you just have 2 just powerhouse offenses, just kind of both playing at an all-time all-season high right now, and neither of them are going to slow down. And I think it's going to be an exciting game. I think it should be a high-scoring game, but you never know with the NFL. I mean, you can see these two these two teams have been scoring out of their minds all season, and then all of a sudden, if it's like a 17-6 game or something crazy like that. But yeah, I'm excited for that game. It's basically a toss-up game. It's -3. Tampa Bay's at home, so they're going to give them the 3 points. So they're very, it should be evenly matched team. It should be an exciting game.
Should be a great game. Keep your eyes, everybody, on the condition of Tristan Wirfs, who is one of their best pass blockers. He came out of the game against the Eagles, and he looked like he was worse for wear. That will change the offensive dynamic if he's injured, but nobody changes better than Brady. Bill, how about you? What are you really excited about for this weekend?
I'm looking forward to the Green Bay-San Francisco game for a couple of reasons. One is I think Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers are the team to beat in the NFC and win the Super Bowl this year. They just look to be on top of their game. And, it's good to see maybe the focus on Aaron Rodgers all that controversy from during the regular season will be a thing of the past. But they're playing the San Francisco 49ers, who I see as like the real underdog on the NFC side of the playoff picture because, they got in as a wild card team and, they beat Dallas in the first round, which is great to say once again. And then they actually have been playing really strong at the tail end of the season here. And Deebo Samuel is a really special talent and very exciting to watch. So I think it'll be a close matchup, but I see Green Bay in the frozen tundra coming out on top of that one.
All right, that should be a great weekend. And if anybody's hearing bells in the background, Bill, you said it earlier. Is that your bookie? No, that's just somebody sending a text message, some updates about the game. And we're excited for what will happen in the playoff round. And we'll be back with parting thoughts. Overtime, parting shots or thoughts on why Eagles why. Mine is, thank goodness for this extended season. It takes the football season up till February 13th and breaks the back of winter. I'm grateful. Bill, what about your parting shots or thoughts?
First of all, I'll touch on the playoffs. I think it's going to be Green Bay versus Buffalo in the Super Bowl with Green Bay winning it. I hopefully don't have to change my prediction next week. Secondly, Howie, you have 3 first-round draft picks this upcoming draft. We can start looking into the draft in coming weeks. Try not to blow it because your first-round draft track record and for the draft as a whole hasn't been great. So you set the foundation this season. Let's build something up and not take a step back next season.
Okay, critical juncture for the Eagles where they sit. Katie, you have an angle nobody's brought up yet.
Yeah, my parting shot is Carson Wentz has really been exposed for the fraud that he is. I know everybody thought that going into the season with Frank Reich that he'd be reunited and rejuvenated and have this great season. And Colts didn't even make the playoffs. All they had to do was beat the worst team in the league and they'd be in. And Carson Wentz blew it and had a really mediocre year. And given the chance to give him a vote of confidence, the Colts general manager really didn't do it. And you're already seeing stories about if the Colts, how they can get rid of Carson Wentz pretty much 1 year after they acquired him. This isn't a matter of, is Jalen Hurts better than Carson Wentz? It's a matter of Carson Wentz is a fraud. And the Eagles drafted him 3rd overall. And I said after the Eagles won the Super Bowl that they should trade him then at the height of his value and should have stuck with Nick Foles. And this just proves that I was right, like I usually am.
All right, Pete, I think you might want to check in a little bit on that as you also talk about Pete's picks where you've had quite a year.
Yeah, Katie could not be any more incorrect. Without Carson Wentz, we wouldn't have probably even won the Super Bowl. He was an MVP. He still should have won that MVP that season. So you really can't call him a fraud. There's no way he's a fraud. I mean, he got us home field advantage all throughout the playoffs. We wouldn't have beat Atlanta if we weren't at home there. And And then Nick Foles steps in. I love Nick Foles, but Nick Foles is one of those quarterbacks that gets hot for a few games and then kind of just goes back to being an average quarterback. So there's no way you can get rid of Wentz there in that season. And Wentz is on a new team, yes. He had a pretty crazy, disappointing year last year. I think he had a pretty decent season. Yeah, he blew it the last game. But that whole team blew the last game. I mean, that was an awful from defense. Their offensive line, usually short-handed wide receivers, and the running back. They did everything they could to lose that game. So I wouldn't blame it all on Wentz, even though he did have a bad game. But when it comes to Jalen Hurts, Wentz, if they didn't draft Jalen Hurts, there wouldn't even be a problem because maybe Wentz would have had a bad year, but they would have brought him back and he would have been back to maybe not 2017 status, but I think he's still one of the top, 15, 20 quarterbacks in the league. So, I mean, I don't think there's a quarterback controversy in Indianapolis because even if deep down inside they are thinking like, oh, what did we do here? There's no way they're going to admit that they shouldn't have got Wentz and then the next year turn around. I just don't believe that's going to happen. So I just had to say that. But, yeah, so as far as my parting shots, Eagles have a lot of work to do. Number one, in my opinion, is get rid of Jonathan Gannon. I think the guy made no adjustments this year. Unlike Sirianni, who I was very critical on in the beginning of the year, he made his adjustments. You can see, you saw the learning curve. You just saw him kind of getting it as the season went. Jonathan Gannon just played the same prevent, soft, weak defense all season because he didn't want to give up the long ball and look bad as a defensive coordinator. That's my opinion. I feel like the guy is very fake, and you're seeing it around the league now. Everybody's like giving him interviews. I don't get it. I just think we didn't have the personnel, but in my opinion, if you do get better personnel on the defensive side, it's not going to make much of a difference if they keep Jonathan Gannon. I think the first thing they should do is get better personnel on the defensive side, especially linebackers. But the main thing, they have to get rid of Jonathan Gannon. We need a more aggressive guy in there. I think as far as like these young guys coming in or defense, especially defenses, they kind of take the personality as their coach. Look at Jim Johnson. The guy was a maniac, and that team was a bunch of maniacs, man. They were just aggressive killers. And this team, this guy is kind of like sits back. He plays a prevent defense, and then these guys kind of the players come across playing like that. They lackadaisical. They make penalties they shouldn't be making. So I think Jonathan Gannon got to go, and Jalen Hurts, he just hasn't shown me enough. So I think we'll see if Aaron Rodgers is attainable. I would go for him. I wouldn't go for Watson. I wouldn't go for Russell. I wouldn't go for Russell. But Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay. It's too cold for him there. I would love to have Aaron Rodgers here. Best quarterback in the league.
Go outside now. Tell me how cold it is.
Hey,
wait, so you're saying you wouldn't want Aaron Rodgers?
Pete, he ain't coming here. You're like, it's too cold in Green Bay. Go outside now.
Never know. He doesn't like his team. He already said he was thinking about sitting out if he makes a Super Bowl. That's a guy that's basically winning in spite of his team, just to be like, I'm the reason we're winning. And I don't see that relationship to keep going. Unless they might, if they win the Super Bowl, right. I could see something happening, but
let's play a little game. Okay, you be Howie Roseman and I'll be the Green Bay GM.
I'm too smart to be
ring.
Howie Roseman.
Give me your 3 first-round picks this year and your first-round pick next year, and I'll give you Aaron Rodgers.
Deal.
Really? You would do that?
I think he gives us a chance to win now. I mean,
you would do that?
Yes, with Howie at the helm, making those picks, I would do it.
I don't think he's going to stay injury-free for too much longer, but that's another thing to add into it.
Do you think that gets Aaron Rodgers? 3 first-round picks this year and your first-round pick next year. Do you think that gets Aaron Rodgers?
I think that's depending on what the relationship really is like behind the scenes. I think less than that. If the relationship is hurting in that behind the scenes, I think it wouldn't take the first-round pick next year.
All right. Hey, we'll intervene.
They don't
here
think
to
they need
say
him. They don't think they need him.
We have all off season to talk about this.
That might be a special episode.
If you check back in 2 hours, you'll see Katie and Pete going at it over the same thing. Hey,
Jalen Hurts is not that good.
On the Eagles.com, you've had the comparison all year, Wirtz and with Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts. One thing I'll throw in from the side is that I don't think Carson Wentz has been the same since that knee injury. He's been a different guy. Anyway, as we come to the end of this, it's great to see you again, Bill, and you, Pete, and Katie. Thank you all year for joining us all season. The Philadelphia Catholic League comment is still in our little Hall of Fame there from great things we heard throughout the season. And we will continue this throughout the playoffs and at times into the off season. So for Bill Gelman, Pete Amato, and for Katie K, Katie Kohler, this is Dave Bontempo saying thanks for joining us on Why Eagles Why.